When a woman threatens you with a relationship, that's time to walk. When she threatens you with a relationship, you say, okay, and you leave. So, my last relationship, lady that we had many things in common in our lifestyle interests, which was really nice. But it was an anxious avoidant style relationship. Me being an anxious guy, right? Succumbs to lots of little behaviors and accepts them. So I did get threatened in that relationship and I didn't walk. I'm going to tell you the story about it. And then we're going to talk about getting threats at the top of your radar. And if you've been threatened in the past, what to do now. So, and why they threaten you. So, my last girlfriend, being an anxious avoidant relationship, she was doing what they do, withholding more and more stuff, drawing boundaries that would take away from your sense of worth and sense of being desired, chip away from your self-respect. But in this case, right, my love language is touch, and it's always has been, and that was something that was brought up in the very beginning of the relationship. So touch is, just love touches. And you put your hand on someone's back, you walk up, and give them a hug, out of the blue, walk up and scratch your back. We'd hold hands, just any kind of touch, but lots of it. And we had a lot of it in the beginning of the relationship, like many relationships do. Halfway through the relationship, some unresolved trauma came up, and that had an impact on the relationship. But after that, that's when the avoidance things were coming up, right? In her case, she wasn't like always malicious. Most of the avoidant behaviors come up because of unresolved stuff from her past, just like the anxious stuff is, trying to be afraid of being abandoned. And anyway, so what happened was, toward the end, well, let's finish this touch thing. She wasn't as touchy as I liked, and I talked a lot to her about it. And we got to a point where there was a lot of touch, and the things that were really important, like when we get together, the first thing that happens is a hello, a hug, and a kiss, right? She'd come to me and give me a hug, or I'd come to her, give her a hug and a kiss, and when we say goodbye, it was very natural. But then, through a counselor, this counselor said, because her body sovereignty was, I guess, kind of an issue for her, said, have me, ask if I could touch her. And I'm already at this point of, when that happened, the relationship was like, this was going beyond, because that was my core need. So long as she served that, I could handle a lot of crap that she was dishing out. But anyway, so now I have to ask for touch, to touch her. And as it turned out, I kind of had to ask if she would touch me. At least that's the way I was receiving it. It was never like clearly stated, but that day when she asked me about this ask to touch, and this was supposed to be temporary, so she could learn her body safety, right? Feel her body autonomy. But I didn't want to do this. And so what was going on, since it's an anxious avoidant relationship, there's this disrespect, devaluing, character attacks that go on in these relationships. And so I broke up with her. But then the counselor, I talked to a counselor, a couples counselor, but that request was done independently of me, no collaboration. It wasn't couples counseling when that was discussed about the ask to touch thing. And so I broke up. The counselor encouraged me to go ahead and do it. And the counselor said, you know, the person who asks the questions is the one that's in control. Well, in business, that works. But in a relationship, I knew in my gut that that wasn't going to work because it was just another boundary that was being thrown on top of me. I was at the point where I was like a tiger in a corner. I was being pushed back so bad. Anyway, I'm making the story a little long. We were walking down the street one day, and I said, I don't want to do this. I want to do the ask the touch thing. You know, we had good touch going on. We had a system. And her response was, well, if you don't, I'll need to find somebody who will. Right? That is a direct threat against the relationship. And it's not the first time she threatened me, but that was the one time that she gave absolute threat. If you are not able to do it, I'm going to find somebody else. And basically what that says is you are conditional or optional. Me, I'm optional. And her request is not optional. And it just didn't strike me at the moment to say, okay, and turn around and leave. It's a power play. It's a complete power play that they do in order to take control of you, right? Stay in control, right? And it's meant to diminish you and make you feel bad to keep them in control. And the thing is, I didn't acknowledge. She did this 3 times, and each time I did not do something. Like say, okay, fine, go find that other person. Right? It's playing their game against them. So a threat to your relationship is an absolute no-no. Absolute. Because when they threaten the relationship, they're now they're telling you, you don't have any value here. What we do is we try to, somehow try to keep our value and our sense of worth in the relationship to them. But they verbally said it. And there's this rule now that I have is, you say something once, I'm going to go, and it violates something, I'm going to say, that's not acceptable. And they need to respond to that and say, yeah, that wasn't right. And they will have to go back and reflect and answer on that, because if they're threatening a relationship, I'm taking control. And I'm going to say, yeah, if you don't want this, you just gave yourself 1 strike and there's 2 strikes. That's it. Sometimes there's just 1 strike. 1 strike and you're out. She threatened one other time. I sent a picture to her. The river near my house is flooded. And it's a pretty big deal. It's pretty significant flooding. I drove down to the river, drove my Jeep a little bit into the water on the road, and I took a picture and sent it to her. Her text back to me was, do not drive through that water. She said, if you care anything about this relationship, or if you care about this relationship, do not drive through that water. That was a threat. Now, it came from a place of contorted sense of safety in her, but it was also control, right? Here I am, 63 at the time, and I've done many things, and that threats piss me off. If you're being threatened in a relationship, call them out and say, you know what, fine, I'm out of here. Own your respect, your sense of worth. If they don't have enough worth, if they don't see enough worth in you to that they are willing to outrightly and coldly threaten your relationship in some way, shape, or form. And I've heard it many times. It's, if you don't do this, I'm going to leave. This is a point where we have to buck up and just see it for what it is and say, I'm not going to fucking put up with this. If you are going to threaten me with this, then you're going to take your whiny ass and get out the door. Or I'm going to take my mature, self-respecting ass and leave. And you have now lost access to me. Then you have to earn it back if you want her back. But I would also hunker down and say, in no uncertain terms, if you want to stay with her, that you will not ever, ever say that to me again. I mean, eye to eye. You will never do that again. She did not answer a text once. I was asking a simple question, yes or no question, and I asked it twice, and she didn't respond to it. Next day I saw her, I said, did you see that text? She said, yeah, I thought it was a stupid question. And I did. She was not going, she didn't apologize, she wasn't going to. If they're not apologizing for the things they break, that's just another big old warning sign. But I had to do that with her. I literally was very stern. I said, you will never, ever use that word at me again. Ever, right? And it was like, I get sense. It was like an adult telling a child, chastising a child, and she was never going to use it at me again. And I knew that. It's kind of funny, guys our age, 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. And this kind of shit still happens. Women can be sadistic in their natural sense. If you're not choosing based on values within you, if you're just looking for that pussy, right? It looks good, someone's actually finding some value in you and giving you a little bit of goo-goo eyes, and you're submitting to that without putting her through the ringer, right? As guys this age, we're like, shit, man, time's running out. I need to hurry up and get back into a relationship so I don't die alone, kind of thing. It's not worth it. It's so much more worth being in command of your world so much that you don't have to have a relationship. You don't have to shortcut yourself. You can find a person, you can take your time, and if they don't come along, you're still just as okay. Threats in a relationship are an absolute no-no. And if you're being threatened, the next time you get that threat, you can stop. And you're going to have to grow a set of balls. But just stop and say, you know what? You've said this before, and this time I'm going to take it. And I'm going to accept your threat. And I'm going to walk out this door. I'm going to go get an apartment. Or you're out of here. Or I'm getting a divorce. Homie, don't play that game. And that is your responsibility as a man to reinstate your masculinity, your sense of leadership in yourself and in others. We're men. We are leaders. We're builders. This is part of the problem. As men, we are builders. We are engineers in some way. We gotta solve problems and fix it and make it work. And that nature is what fucks us up and gets us into these things that are clearly not working. I was listening to this one guy once, And he was talking about his mentor when he first met his mentor. And the mentor was, this guy was broke all the time. And he was sick. He wasn't happy. And his mentor said, your way's not working. Why don't you try mine? And it just hit him at the right time. Right? You're right. Let's try something else. And so, if you're in this relationship and shit like this is going on, dude, your way is not working. And now there's hers. And now you get the chance to say, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. And let's see what happens. And by the way, when that threat comes out and you say, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this, you can't go back without them owning their part. If you go back, you're teaching them, well, that meant nothing, and I can do it again anytime, and she can say, oh, good, that'll give me a few days off. A threat in a relationship is a sure sign that she does not respect you or value you as her man. And she has turned you into options, into an optional guy. And I'd be careful if that's going on. You know, she might be out there having her little fling somewhere. And she doesn't have respect for you, and your love life with her is crap. You know, all the way around, the intimacy and stuff. I pay attention to her over a period of time, see if her attitude kind of shifts back around. She one day seems to be a little extra bubbly for no particular reason. There might be a thing going on that you don't know about. This subject pisses me off because you don't talk to them like that. And there's no reason for you to accept being talked to like that. And if you've been and you're all beat down and feeling all depressed and stuff, you're going to find it's going to be hard because you're going to have to change your habits. You've gotten in the habit of allowing this stuff. And it's going to be hard to hold up your end and say, I'm not doing this. I am not doing this. And I am not going to accept you talking to me like this without some consequences. And she's going to piss and moan and bitch, and it's all going to be your fault, but you're going to stand by it. You don't flex an inch. Because the minute you do, she owns your balls again. And you're just going to have your self-esteem chipped away a little bit more. So that's my man-to-man talk with you. You know, I've gone through all this stuff. I've had a couple people that have said that to me. My wife used to tell me I don't respect you. I tolerated that shit. And I'm always trying to get her approval. There was a girl I dated for about 6 months after her. I was like really vulnerable. And that chick, she was a narcissist. She like caught me like radar, man. Walked up to me and was, oh, you know, this kind of loving eyes and the big old smile. And she wanted to get to know me, and on my gut saying, I'm not ready for this. But there's a little part of me that let her in. Boy, did she fuck me up. Love bombed me. Told me how much of a man I was. Gave me great sex. I had no problem with my tool getting working with that one because she made me feel so good. And then she started to rip all that away. That really had an effect on me. All right, I didn't learn my lesson. I mean, I never had one like that again. I wasn't going to have one like that again. But I had other ones. She was a narcissist. The next two were avoidance. Oh boy, I can't say this enough, dude. If she's threatening you with a relationship, you have to grow a set of balls and say, this is the last time you are ever going to say that. I mean, and say it, with that look in your eye, like you have just crossed the last line you're going to cross. And even if she says it and catches you off guard again, and you walk away, you can come back and say, once you gain yourself and say, this is the subject I'm staying on, you tell yourself, I will not let her deflect this one. I'm not going to let her divert it. I'm not going to let her turn around and blame me. She does any of that shit, you call it out. And there are certain things, like if she tries to redirect back blame to you, like they say, well, how you make me feel, the way you make me feel. Mine said that to me. You don't make them feel like anything. But the whole point is they are making you responsible for something that is not your responsibility. Don't ever, ever tolerate a threat. This is man to man. You are a man. You are a builder. You're a leader. You demand the respect. You require it in yourself, and that's what you have to build up. But you will gain that self-respect by requiring it of those who are disrespecting you, particularly your lady. I'm still pissed off now, because after I thought about that, when she said that later on, I was like, shit, she just told me I'm an option, that my needs don't matter whatsoever. And if I'm not willing to bend to her requirements, then she'll find somebody else. God damn, I wish I turned around and walked away on that one. But I was already out of the picture pretty much at that point. I mean, emotionally inside, I was already pretty much gone. Literally, I was at the point of, if this is the line you're drawing, this ask to touch thing, I'm not playing this game. Right? So, all right, brother. That's all I have to say on this one. Love to hear your stories down in the comments. And if you're getting anything out of this, subscribe, like, and we'll catch you in the next video.